my channel, welcome. And what I like to do is talk about anything classic rock related. And if you like classic rock news with a little bit of a twist, go ahead and please hit that subscribe button. I would truly appreciate it. So just getting into some classic rock news, Eddie Money. We all love Eddie Money. He's a funny guy. He's a classic rock icon. I mean, you just cannot take that away from him. And he's still out there performing. Well, a few weeks back, Memorial Day weekend, he did several shows that weekend. And before that, doctors had told him he really needed to get heart valve replacement surgery. But Eddie did not want to disappoint his fans, so he still went out there, he still performed, and then that following week he had the surgery. But we haven't really heard or seen from Eddie, so I've just been wondering, is he okay? Hopefully everything is good. And yesterday on Eddie Money's Instagram, they did a whole thank you to Rick Springfield and his band for the tribute they did to Eddie. And I'm like, what is going on? What is happening here? So I looked at it, and in Rick's background on the stage, it said, "Get well, Eddie." It was huge. It filled up the whole back of the stage. Again, I think it would be best for all of us to send our positive vibes over to Eddie Money, wish him the best, and hopefully he gets back out there soon. Even if he doesn't, as long as he's okay and he's doing well, I think that's all we care about. So again, all the best to Mr. Eddie Money, the Money Man. Rolling Stones. I found this shirt in my closet the other day. I decided to wear this shirt. It's so cool because the Rolling Stones are back on the road. Mick Jagger had his heart valve replacement surgery, and he's doing better than before the surgery. Ronnie Wood actually recently came out and called him superhuman. He's just amazing. And Mick, for a 75-year-old guy, it's incredible what he does on that stage. And I think he really runs circles around the rest of the guys. Again, the Rolling Stones back out there, and if you have the chance to go and see them, boy, you are lucky, because who knows? I mean, are they going to go back out again next year? This might be it for the Rolling Stones, but sounds like their shows are really, really awesome. So Led Zeppelin in 1973, they released their amazing album, Houses of the Holy. They sold over 10 million copies. It had diamond status. And on the cover were Stefan and Samantha Gates, brother and sister. And today, Stefan is a celebrity chef, and Samantha is a wonderful mom to her daughter. So they took the pictures of Stefan and Samantha, and they had no clothes on. I mean, really, in 1973, it was not that big of a deal. I remember hippie parents, their kids were always running around the neighborhood with no clothes on. You just really didn't think anything of it. My mother did not let me do that. And as we got older, if they were still running around with no clothes on, it was a problem. But anyway, what the record company did was they put a brown paper wrapper over the record cover. So it was in the store. You didn't see the album cover. You had to take it off to get to the album. Well, I guess it still caused a hullabaloo back in the day, but recently Led Zeppelin put that album cover on their Facebook page, and Facebook removed their page completely. I mean, really, it's kind of incredible. You see the worst things on Facebook sometimes. I have seen some really horrible, disgusting videos on Facebook, yet they take down a picture of Houses of the Holy because of the nudity. I mean, Facebook did give Led Zeppelin their page back, but you just have to shake your head and go, who makes these decisions? I really just don't know. But again, Led Zeppelin, they have their page back, so all is good there. Alice Cooper, the godfather of shock rock, he came out not too long ago and talked about a death pact that him and his wife of 43 years, Cheryl Goddard, have with each other. Now, Alice basically said, look it, we love each other so much, we've been together so many years that if something happens to Cheryl, I'm not going to have time to mourn because I'm going to be gone. And if something happens to me, Cheryl is out. She's out of here. So fans got concerned, and they're like, oh my gosh, are these guys going to like do a Kevorkian thing? Are they going to commit suicide? What is going on between Alice and Cheryl? Alice backpedaled a bit. He came back out and he said, no, it's not a death pact. It's a life pact that we have with each other. You know, listen guys, we don't see ourselves living our lives apart. So all I'm saying is that if something happens to either one of us, we're not going to be around to know about it. So guys, you read between the lines there, and Alice Cooper is Alice Cooper. He's going to do what he wants to do. I wouldn't worry about it. I just wouldn't. And thank you to Richard, who reached out to me on YouTube. He's like, listen, are there two Phil Browns here? Because you talked about Phil Brown with the whole Steve Perry lawsuit. What's going on? Because I literally did not know anything about Phil Brown. So I did some digging about Phil Brown, and my gosh, he's been around the block a bit. So Phil Brown, the guy that Steve Perry just dropped a lawsuit against, he was in Little Feat. He's done work with Roger Daltrey, Pat Benatar, Cher. Now here's something that I just learned. See, I love learning new things. Cher actually had a group called Black Rose. Black Rose, who the heck knew? But she was kind of in the background for that. And again, that really didn't go very far, but Phil was involved in that project. And in 1991, him and Steve Perry did a whole bunch of demos in Phil Brown's garage. Now, why do I keep saying Phil Brown? I could just say Phil. But I kind of like saying Phil Brown. Phil Brown. I mean, just say it. Phil Brown. You just don't want to say Phil. It's Phil Brown. Right? It feels good. So they did all these demos, 1991, Phil's Garage, and then we come to 1994, and For the Love of Strange Medicine, that was Steve Perry's album that year, that gets released, and Phil Brown had all of these demos kind of sitting in his garage back pocket. So in 2002, Phil Brown gave up all of the rights to those demos because Steve Perry said those demos are not made for human consumption. I don't want those things released. So Phil Brown said, okay, I won't release them. Well, then, we get to last year when Steve Perry comes out of the woodwork. He releases his Traces album, and here's Phil Brown. Now, Phil Brown, I guess, has his own band, and he wanted to use those demos to his advantage. So Steve Perry went after him, basically, and he sued Phil Brown. But just recently, Steve Perry dropped the lawsuit against Phil Brown, and they're going to mediation to talk about the demos, and Steve wants those demos capuzzo. Phil Brown wants to still release them, but here's my message to Phil Brown. In 2002, now I wasn't there. We're just going by what everybody else says. But in 2002, you said you were going to relinquish your rights and you would never release those demos. In this world, sometimes we just got to do the right thing. And I think the right thing would be to just either give those demos back to Steve. That's something I would suggest you do. Hand the demos back over to Steve and move on. You know what I mean? Because why upset somebody? It's upsetting to him. That he doesn't want them released. Will he be embarrassed if they're released? I really don't know. But again, I think we all have to think about how we live our lives, right? And just what we do to make other people unhappy or angry. Why bother? Why do that? Just hand him over and move on, Phil Brown. That's just my suggestion. And Steve Perry, he's not called me yet. But, I have faith in this whole thing. I really do. And I have to let you know that I just ordered a Steve Perry t-shirt. I know, right? It'll be my first one. It's kind of stupid. But there's not many of them out there. Let's talk about that. There are not many vintage Steve Perry t-shirts. I had to buy like a repro one. Because again, I'm not paying $200 for a Steve Perry vintage t-shirt. If I have the opportunity to get one at a reasonable cost, I will get a reasonably priced vintage Steve Perry t-shirt. Because as you can see, this is all original stuff. I do not like reproduction stuff. I just don't. It's just not my thing. So as soon as that t-shirt comes, I will be wearing it for my videos because I have to make sure Steve Perry shows up at my little tiny broadcast studio to speak to me. You want to see it. You do. It's a thing. It's just a thing now. Got to talk to Steve Perry. And my hair is frizzing as we sit here because it is really hot here in Rhode Island. Well, guys, anyway, thanks so much for watching. I truly, truly appreciate it. Have a great night, a great weekend, a great everything. And as always, remember, most importantly, the most important thing in life, because it makes us all happy, is to keep rocking.